Hello, welcome back to the Giant Papist. This is day 3 of the Lenten Reflections. As always, recorded ahead of time so it could be sent at 8 in the morning. This case being the Gospel reading for the third day of Lent, the Friday after Ash Wednesday. The Gospel passage is Matthew chapter 9, verses 14 to 15. As always, for the sake of having the complete picture, I'm going to extend it up to verse 17 so we can get the entirety of Jesus's teaching. This case, once again, returning to the topic of fasting. So, let us begin the lesson. Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast? And Jesus said to them, Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. And no one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved. Thus endeth the lesson for today. So, during Jesus' public ministry, after the Sermon on the Mount, after Matthew recounts his own calling to be Jesus' disciple, we have an episode with Jesus and the disciples of John the Baptist, where it is a similar question that, if I'm remembering correctly, the Pharisees also ask. That could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Pharisees also ask Jesus this question. And to put things in perspective, Jesus is not against fasting while he is in his public ministry. After all, he himself fasted right after his baptism for 40 days. He and his disciples likely fasted during the Day of Atonement, the Feast of Yom Kippur, as faithful Jews. And there seems to be this sense that it isn't that Jesus' disciples do not fast at all, because if they didn't fast at all, that could have been a more credible charge brought against Christianity by the Jewish authorities, but rather it seems to be how become your specific fasting practices that you give to your disciples are different than what the Pharisees do or different from what John the Baptist does or teaches us to do. And I think that is key, that it's specifically how come you're not fasting the same way as we do, because I can't help but notice that Jesus' answer begins with a rather strange question. Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? Now, obviously, yes, this means that fasting will, of course, begin after Jesus ascends into heaven, just like it was before his passion, death, and resurrection. But I find it interesting that Jesus says, why we in the church need to mourn as long as the bridegroom is with us. So this perhaps calls back to Matthew's recollection in the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus' ethical teachings that, we shouldn't make a show of fasting before men. We shouldn't be mourning or fasting in order to gain sympathy, as Trent Horn said in his recent video for Ash Wednesday. And Jesus doubles down that, yes, I expect my disciples to fast, because he states when the bridegroom is taken away from them, then they will fast. And again, as always in Matthew's gospel, this continues this theme of Jesus being the new Moses, the fulfillment of the law of Moses and all the prophets had spoke when he talks about the concept of old garments and new garments and old wineskin and new wineskin, where current reflection to me at the top of my head for this moment is that, yes, we in the church will fast. In fact, it used to be an ancient practice of the church that every Wednesday and Friday, the Christians, at least in the area that gave us the Didache, did fast on Wednesdays and Fridays. Sorry, lost my place, lost my train of thought. So, oh yes, yes. So Jesus, he is fulfilling the law of fasting. He is inviting us to fulfill our fasting in a deeper and more spiritual way. For, hence his parable that his disciples would have understood at the time. If you want to repair an old garment, you don't put a piece of unshrunk cloth on it. You don't sew it on there because the patch is going to make the tear worse. Same thing with wine. You do not put fresh wine on wineskin that's already been used, otherwise, both will be ruined. We put new wine into fresh wineskins so that both are preserved, the wine and the vessel that contains it. I am here to fulfill the law of Moses, but I am not going to fulfill it by completely destroying it. I'm going to renew it. I'm going to make it new. I will reveal what it was that my Father had always intended for our forefathers in the faith when this law of fasting was given to Moses. And with that, this will make a very short reflection because it's a very short gospel passage. Not much I can go into that I can think of. I'm sure you'll no doubt think of stuff I missed or correct me, hopefully correct me charitably if I do in the comments section. So with that out of the way, this has been the Giant Papist. This is day 3 of my daily Lenten reflections, and I hope to see you on the following day.